For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard with you here on a Monday, live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Good guests on the program lined up today. Eddie Olczyk on the NHL. Brian Mahoney on the NBA. Zach Cohen as well gave out a huge ticket on the Pacers many months ago. How is he going to slice and dice with that bad boy as they are now in the Eastern Conference Finals? We'll get into the Major League Baseball card, most wins in May. PGA recap as well. Thanks for checking in today on YouTube TV, the VSiN Watch app, Sirius XM Channel 158, wherever you might be listening or watching the show. And now the finals, the semifinals are, set now actually in the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, both the NBA and the NHL. And based on what happened yesterday, Paulie, afternoon anyway, out here, Pacific time zone, with what the Thunder did to the Nuggets, it was hairy there to begin. They're down 11. I thought Denver had them where they wanted them, and they were still compromised in that game. I mean, Gordon clearly wasn't 100%. I think Murray, the fallout from his illness really affected him yesterday. Westbrook was terrible yet again. They had no depth whatsoever. That was a 1-point game at the timeout with 3:10 to play before halftime, and then an 18-5 run. That could not happen for the Nuggets. They allowed it to happen, and then that was the ball game. The floodgates opened up. And now, as a result, the series price here between Oklahoma City and Minnesota is through the roof. Here at Circa, they're $365.
All right, you're throwing a lot at me, champ. Number one, I can't believe Gordon played.
Neither can I.
The long-term damage he could have done.
I know it.
If something would have happened. Joker said, don't play. Are you out of your mind? So he was going to try to steal Game 7 here, and then who knows what? Who knows? I'd probably just say I'll see you next year. But I got to play in Game 7. And I know he couldn't sprint, but he actually produced.
He did.
And he tied for most rebounds in the game. Adelman's going to get the job. He did a good job, but yesterday he did not. You cannot sit Murray and Joker at the same time when you have a one-arm Porter and an injured Gordon and a horrific Russ. So when it was 21-10, he goes to the bench and all hell breaks loose. Good job by Williams. They solved the zone for the first time this series, and there was just sloppy joes. Silly turnovers by Denver, easy baskets, blowout, and it was unfortunate what looked like a good day on paper with PGA. Game 7 and Game 7, no drama. Thank you, Maple Leafs. Thank you, Nuggets.
Well, it turned out to be a pretty bad weekend in terms of overall drama.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not a great sports weekend. I'd tell you that the Preakness was by far and away the best thing that happened with the run there by journalism. But so now they're going to go from facing this team, Denver, that has absolutely zero depth. Can I say that Denver has the worst depth in the entire league?
Yeah.
They have nobody on the bench.
They had the best player, and I didn't think everyone picked the Clippers to beat them, and the 60-cent move on the series price.
Sure, right.
Denver shouldn't have been here, and that's an indictment also of the Clippers, Harden, and also OKC.
But also won 7 games, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, come on. They did not even at no point other than Game 2, though, the rest of the series, did they look like the 68-win team with the number one defense, the number one point differential, most turnovers forced, and all that jazz. And you're right. They just have no depth. Compromised players, and you had to go 7 against them, and you were in trouble. I know you blew Game 1, but you were down big, and you had to come back to win at Denver when you were down 2-1 as well. So I don't understand, back to one of your questions about where we're at with the series price. Because before the game, DraftKings put up $260. So
then why a dollar move then? Because of the blowout?
I don't get it. If you're $260, and then they blow out a team which 2 guys are hurt, and then you move it all the way. ESPN bets at $4. Come on now.
Okay, so, and by the way, some spots opened up like minus 330, and now this comes down to, pro bettors, their computers, their numbers, what it's telling them to bet, where the numbers might lie, and what they should be taking advantage of, if you will. And so if that's going to go to $365 here at Circa and $4 at ESPN bet, here at Circa, let me rephrase it for people who don't do the odds converter stuff. Minus 365 to win something converts to 78.5%. You're telling me that the Oklahoma City Thunder have basically an 80% chance to win the series? Does that seem right to you? 80% chance?
No.
And like we talked about, Denver has absolutely zero depth. Well, hello. Minnesota's one of the deepest teams. They can match Oklahoma City player for the most part.
They have size, they have length, they have depth, and get ready, they're going to play a lot of zone.
And they're a better shooting team.
That too.
From downtown.
This is outrageous. I think both series prices are outrageous. And I said that immediately when I saw the Cavs-Pacers price. I thought OKC was way high against Denver as well. I mean, you're laying 10.5, 11 in these games to start the series. And
sure.
I'm with you. We're getting carried away here with some of these prices.
You know that the Timberwolves are 30-6 in the last 36 games Julius Randle has played. And he is averaging 24, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds in the playoffs so far, shooting 51% from the floor and 35% from downtown. The Thunder got killed last year because of a guy like P.J. Washington, murdered him, went off in that series, played the best basketball of his life. I think there's going to be a spot here where a guy like Randle, or more specifically Naz Reid, really shows up in this series, because I don't know what Gobert's going to be able to. I think defensively, Gobert, well, he has to show up here and be a monster, and he can be in this series. But I also think Gobert has a chance to give Minnesota nothing offensively. You cannot throw the ball down low on the low block to this guy. He looks like a clumsy sixth grader out there with his handles. And now you're going to have big guys and awesome defenders down low. Like, he's going to be a waste, I think, on the offensive end. So does that mean more minutes for a guy like Naz Reid? Did the Timberwolves go small ball in this series to maybe play to their advantage? And don't forget that the Wolves beat him twice this year, and Randle did not play in either one of those games.
Paul, and Randle's been Superman in the playoffs, 24, 6, and 6. Mm-hmm. Yep. The one thing that stands out was what SGA did in those meetings. 37, 39, and 40. Yep. He got whatever he wanted. I don't know what Finch is going to do. That's I see how he handles it. You're right. I'm not a Gobert fan, but he certainly was there with the rim protection, and he can help there as well. And I do think Minnesota will control the pace. I think the East will be an over series, high flying, high scoring, bombs away, and I think the West will be a slow pace and an under series.
What Jalen Williams are we going to get for Oklahoma City?
Don't know.
It's supposed to be their second best player.
I know. He was good in Game 7, but again, the zone gave him a ton of issues in the Denver series and in the 4 matchups in the regular season. So that's what Finch is going to do, and I don't know. That's a key to the series as well. Also, a key is what Ant are we going to get? And I know great player, but in terms of, are you going to be aggressive? Are you going to be passive? Are you going to get yours early on, or are you going to be looking to get the others involved and attack it that way? Because we saw in the second half at times of that Golden State series, especially those road games, when he's aggressive and when he's on, it's a whole different team.
Sure. Now, this part concerns me, certainly as somebody who was holding T-Wolves 40-1 to win the West. They're sloppy. They play out of control at times. Out of 16 playoff teams, they are 13th in turnover percentage. And Oklahoma City is number 1 in opponent turnover rate. And I can see this series being littered with spots where I'm just going to be holding that ticket, like shaking my head. Guys, come on, man. I know that Oklahoma City's defense is so good, but can you please not have so many unforced errors? You got to clean that stuff up. That part concerns the death out of me. The daylights out of me, I should say. So, but I still think that the price on the series overall is way too high. And the Knicks, by the way, when you do the conversion at minus 160, that is a 61.5% chance to win the series. Too high?
Too high, and they're taking money. I don't get it. I think the Pacers are the better team. Pacers are the hotter team. And I think the way they are going offensively right now, I mean, the Knicks won the series, but the Celtics also lost it and gave it to them with what happened in the first 2 games. So you're up 20 late in the third quarter. But the run that Indiana's on and the frenetic pace and getting you in a track meet, first 2 rounds, effective field goal percentage, 58%. It's a record. 117 points per 100 possessions in the playoffs. Dominating right now. Second best offense in the playoffs. What they're doing. Can they contain Cat? And can Cat stay out of foul trouble? That's big because Cat was awesome in the regular season in meetings, and Cat's going to be big in this series. He should be able to dominate and have his way down low. I wouldn't shoot threes if I'm Cat. He's 3 of 19 in the Boston series. But he should clean the boards. But the big if is foul trouble, and that could decide it.
Here were his numbers in the regular season only against Indiana this year. 30-plus points per game, 12 rebounds, 2.3 steals, and 56.6% shooting. He killed him.
Mm-hmm.
JVT has a great write-up on vsin.com. I would highly encourage that you read that, and also Zach Cohen, who's coming on later with us. JVT makes a great case for Josh Hart to lead the series in rebounds at 5-1. And I implore you to go out there and read it yourself. But
he was great against Boston, too.
Sure,
So
he's going to play endless minutes here. He's a total hustle guy, and I just think that he's going to have tons of opportunities here to gobble up, 10, 11, 12 rebounds throughout this entire series. So I know that the Cavaliers were banged up.
Better team won.
I know the Bucks were banged up. Bucks are not going to beat the Pacers in that series. The Cavaliers, I thought, were manhandled by Indiana in that series.
Yep.
And you cannot forget, Knicks had to outscore the Pistons by 19 in the fourth quarter of Game 1. They won 3 one-possession games in that series, all on the road. Oh, and by the way, I'm still waiting for the foul to be called on Josh Hart at the end of the game. That probably would have given the Pistons the win. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Shoulda lost to Detroit in round 1. And then Boston, as you said last Friday, they could have won that series 5-0.
Yep.
They blew the first 2. Tatum gets hurt in Game 4. You do the math on that.
It's a good Final Four, though. It's refreshing. For the 7th straight year, we'll have a different champ.
Yeah.
Indiana's never won it. OKC's never won it. Minnesota's never won it. The Knicks haven't won it since '73. So
I like that.
No matter what happens, right. And I don't see OKC as this runaway favorite either. Smarter bets start here. Last all year long with VSiN Pro. Get the annual subscription, 14 months, just $199 when you use promo code PRO. We'll throw in 2 extra months free for less than 50 cents a day. The best bets, the daily email from Bill 80, every pick, every host, every guest. The dog videos, vsin.com/subscribe.
I will throw a couple of numbers at you for Eastern Conference Finals MVP to consider up next, and also NHL semifinals. Game 1, numbers, series prices, updated Conn Smythe odds next here on VSiN.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
It's good to have you on board. Busy hour coming up. We will get into these prices that we have in the NBA and the NHL, series prices and game ones, a bunch of props on the board for tonight and for this week as well. And here we'll begin talking some NHL as the great Eddie Olczyk joins the program now. And he is on the Progressive guest line. And this is on the heels of being in Toronto last night, calling that game. It was a bloodbath, but Florida got Toronto 6-1 in Game 7, and they march on. Eddie, good to talk to you as always. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
Hey, Mitch, Paulie, always great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
hey, Eddie.
Pleasure to talk to you as always. We were just talking about this and how surprised we were. I mean, Toronto goes to Florida, shuts them out in Game 6. Obviously, it's been forever. This fan base is starving. And these players have been like up against it now, and they feel all the pressure in the world. Here you get the Panthers at home on a Sunday night to close them out in advance, and it was tilted ice for the first 5 to 6 minutes of that first period. Were you surprised calling the game and how Florida dominated early on?
I mean, nothing surprised me when it comes to the playoffs, you know. I mean, I know that pressure well. Now, obviously, the world's a much different place than it was in the late 80s when, you know, I was lucky enough to play in Toronto for 3.5 years, and so I understand, you know, the limelight and the pressure on in a hockey trade, you know, market like Toronto. But at times in the series, both the teams, as we were talking, guys, before you brought me on, and at times in the series, both teams had their way with one another. I mean, it was a very close series. Now I know the last 2 out of 3 games, you know, Florida, you know, dominated the majority of Game 5, and, you know, they dominated the majority of last night's Game 7. But Toronto, I think, they won the first two games, and then they had Florida. I don't want to say you have a team on the ropes in game 3, but when you're up 2-0 and you are up 3-1 in a game 3 on the road, you got a chance, and the defending Stanley Cup champions, I might add.
Yep.
You got a chance to really, really put the squeeze on them and give Florida credit. I mean, I think their depth, their strength, ended up really testing the Maple Leafs in the 7-game series. And it seemed to me, again, I did games 3 and 4 and 6 and 7 for TNT. So I think I got a pretty good feel of in the building, and then watching on television. It just seemed that as the series went on, Florida became I think they showed why they have been to the Stanley Cup final the last couple of years and defending Stanley Cup champions. They just seemed to be able to get their depth players really going. Their top players had a couple of big plays when they needed them, and Sergei Bobrovsky certainly was way more consistent as the series went on than he was early in the series. And this takes nothing away from Joseph Woll, who played an unbelievable game 4, where it could have been 3 or 4-0 after period 1, and he gave his team an opportunity. So it happens, unfortunately. I mean, like I said, I lived it there. I know exactly the feeling and what those guys are going through right now. But expectations were a hell of a season. They won the division to avoid either Tampa or Florida in round 1. They did that. They took care of Ottawa. But then they weren't able to take care of the defending Stanley Cup champions on home ice. And obviously the way it went, it was very disappointing. But give Florida credit. They got stronger, I thought, as the series went on.
Do they? So I can't say they win the series if Stolarz doesn't get hurt? Or can I say that?
I think that certainly is an interesting dynamic, Paulie, because he was their guy, and he was, he played very well in the playoffs, especially in round 1 against Ottawa. And then obviously he took that shot to the head with the puck. And then, right after that, he got the forearm there, the forearm by Sam Bennett. And then, a couple of shifts later, he's on the bench and he's sick, and, and then all of a sudden, he's out of the game. And then here comes Joseph Woll. So, sure. I guess, could it have been different if the number 1 guy was in there? Yeah. Could have been different. Sure. But as we know, injuries and sickness and all that is a part of playoff hockey. And, I think Woll performed well, obviously. I think, in games 3 and 4, they needed him. Like, I think game 3, it's not exactly inside hockey here, but game 3 was the game where you needed Woll to play like he did in game 4.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, you needed him to be just to shut the door and just say, you know what, we're going to go up 3-0, and then, we're going to, you guys got to take your chances on winning 4 straight. So goaltending, if you get it, you got a shot. If you don't get it, you have no shot. And I think in a couple of these games later in the series, Bob, like I said, got stronger. And unfortunately, Joseph Woll gave up a couple of softies, and then all of a sudden the Leafs were on the run.
Follow the money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The great Eddie Olczyk with us here on the Progressive Guest Line. He was in Toronto last night for Game 7. You're already in Carolina, and this is such a quick turnaround. So is Florida, right? They play tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Does that hurt Florida, you think, with that quick turnaround?
It sure. I mean, I would say yes. Now, we've seen it in a lot of situations where teams have had, 4, 5, 6 days off, and then the team that battles in a 7-game series comes out in game 1, and they're already at that level, and it takes the team with a little bit of rust on them to get going, and all of a sudden that team that you think is out of gas finds a way to, to get the job done, and then all of a sudden it's a different series. So I just think with the way that the series was with Toronto, it's not an easy trip for travel for both teams. Florida's got the Game 7, and now they're on their way to, here to Carolina, and they got to get right back into the saddle. But I think that their depth, I believe, Mitch, it allows them to be able to win games maybe when they don't have their fastball. And then you got the guy in goal. Like I said, I can't emphasize enough. He just seems to be he seems to be so zoned in right now. Is that you're going to need? They're going to need a goalie win here in this series, and if it happens, there's a very good chance that it's going to be in Game 1 for Sergei Bobrovsky. But just to give people a heads up too, is like this series, there are no 2-day breaks here. I think the West as well. I think it's every other day for the next 13 days, whatever it ends up being. So something to take into consideration where you look at a team like Florida that has had, the 7-game series, even though it was 5 games against Tampa. I mean, those are tough series. You got guys that are banged up. But I would say, a slight edge to Carolina from the aspect of being well rested and coming out like gangbusters tomorrow. And, I'm not saying they can win the game in the first 10 minutes of the game, but I think you guys know what I mean. They're going to come out and they're going to be throwing everything at the net. They might have 12 shots the first 5 minutes of the game and might take Florida a little bit of time, but they're a wagon. Florida's a wagon. I expect them to come with their best punch in this series, and we'll see how it all starts out tomorrow night here in Carolina. By the way, where it's a beautiful day. It's about 84 degrees, and looking forward to puck drop tomorrow night on TNT just a little bit after 8 Eastern.
3 minutes, sir. You're an expert on this. Was the best comeback you've seen? Best comeback out of journalism? And what'd you think of what the jockey did? If that was a good ride, a bad trip, was it reckless? Yeah. Take us through this.
Well, I didn't like his ride in the Derby because I was all over journalism. I had future tickets on him. Of course, it's all about me, but I mean, 12-1, going into the Derby. Yeah. So 12-1 was looking good when he went off as the favorite. I mean, look, I think he does breathe different air. I think this is an unbelievable animal. I think the Belmont's got a chance to be an unbelievable race in whatever it is, 19, 20 days from now. So, so I didn't like his ride in the Derby. I thought he got a little excited there, and I think he got a little horned up there. And instead of maybe waiting a little bit, he moved early. I thought he did everything that you wanted in that field. He sat in behind, and then sometimes it just happens where it gets a little snug, it gets a little tight. The agility, the athleticism. So for the ride that I thought that wasn't great, I think he can go fivefold here. I thought he just he put his horse in a spot, and then all of a sudden he had the adversity, and then he was just able to find that hole. And then once he got outside, I mean, it was over. I mean, it was lights out. So an amazing effort, and I give him all the props in the world there to be able to stick handle his way through, if I can use the pucks and ponies analogy. And it was just a very impressive win, and it's even money. You probably got a little excited there, probably at the 8th pole, and you're like, oh my gosh. You look at all the problems, but I think this horse is very special. I really do. He was my pick in the Derby, and unfortunately, the off track I think might have set him back. But I think the Belmont's got a chance, guys, to really be an unbelievable betting race. And let's hope that all these horses can stay healthy here in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully journalism goes and you get the Derby winner there in Savantry, and you get Baeza in there as well. It's going to be a real deep field, and hopefully you'll be able to make a little bit of money.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Eddie, you're the best. Very gracious with your time as well, traveling as much as you do. Thank you so much for the time, and have a great call tomorrow night, okay?
I appreciate it, guys. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to seeing you down the road.
Sounds great. There you go. Sir. Eddie Olczyk with us here on the Progressive Guest Line. That finish, if you would pause the race when journalism got caught up, bullied, whatever he called it, stick handling, if you paused it right there and said, I'll bet you any amount of money you want that journalism is going to come back and win this thing, you'd say, okay.
There's no room.
Sure. You name the amount.
He gets bumped.
No,
there's no
zero.
room. Yeah. That's why the back and forth about the experts and about how it was a horrible job, could have been an accident, all that.
But the way he just charged then.
I know.
And forget about it. Stampeded his way to a win.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I forget the guy's name, but the call was unbelievable. I retweeted. The call was so good.
Yeah.
He's a stunned. It was genuine. It was legitimate. What? Journalism.
Sure.
Awesome.
Up next, we'll discuss hedging. Paulie has 19-1 on the Pacers. We each have the T-Wolves at long shots. Long odds will tell you what we're going to do coming up next.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Good to have you on board. Yeah, we're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Starting this hour, talking NBA playoffs and specifically the Eastern Conference Finals as we head back to the great city of New York now, as Brian Mahoney has covered the Knicks and the NBA for many, many years with the Associated Press, and he joined us here in the Progressive Guest Line. Brian, thanks for the time as always. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How's it going, guys?
Doing really well. Now, we were just talking about this before you came on, and you can expand on this in a minute, like what you've been through watching this team like every night for decades now and what the fan base has been through for a long, long time. Based on what happened after they beat the Celtics, if this team makes the finals, are they going to burn the city to the ground?
People were talking about that, Mitch. Yeah, like, it was such an incredible scene, right? Just making the conference finals. And, people were kind of laughing at the Knicks fans like that. You didn't win anything yet, but when you've gone as long as they have without even being competitive, this is a big deal. And, yeah, if they somehow get through and get to the finals, yeah, I mean, they're going to be blocking traffic for miles around New York City.
That is well said, but you have the scars to prove it. I mean, they were a laughing stock, like the Mecca. Couldn't get big free agents, sell the team, Dolan, how bad the starting five was. And maybe the worst part about it all was the Isaiah Thomas tenure, where it was giving Jerome James ridiculous contract, Eddie Curry, and then the sexual harassment. It just wouldn't end with this guy.
No, and he just kept being here. And my first few years were when Isaiah was president, and then a couple of years when he was coach. They finally got rid of him as the president, but he stayed on as coach. And just terrible teams. And you'd say, okay, it's going to lead somewhere. They're going to get somebody. They're going to luck out in the draft lottery.
Right,
they're going to do, and then a lot they pick the wrong guy. They bring in a bad free agent. Isaiah would throw a bad contract at him. They just kept adding to their own problems, and it took years and years and years to get out of it.
Well said. Absolutely. Then they thought they had it with Melo, and they finally won a playoff series, but they were kind of doomed from the start because he wanted to go to New York anyways. But he wanted out of Denver so bad he made the Knicks give up assets, young players, and picks to do so to get out early.
No, you're right, Paul. I mean, the Knicks could have waited and tried to get him in free agency. They had the money to just do that. But instead, they sort of panicked. They were worried about competing with the Nets, who were also trying to get him. So they threw this great trade package to them, to Denver. And the Knicks, didn't have a lot of help around Carmelo. And they never were able to build that up. And then they finally had a good year or two, and then Phil Jackson comes in as president, and he messed the whole thing up almost as bad as Isaiah did. So it was such a short window in time where they even had a chance to be competitive. It was gone like that.
Right. And then they thought, okay, KD, Kyrie, we can do this, and they go to the Nets to add injury to insult. So take us through what people were saying when their, quote, big move was to bring in Brunson and what people thought of that when it happened initially.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all thought Brunson was like an okay player. Like, hey, Dallas did pretty well when he was there as mostly a backup. He didn't even really become a full-time starter until late in his time there. And, the Knicks basically, they made moves to free up salary cap space, and they threw it all at Jalen Brunson. And we were saying, look, like, he's okay, but that's our big move here in New York is they're getting this guy who was a second-round pick. And they even got fined for tampering. They talked to him too early, and that made it even more laughable. That, like, this is the guy, of course he was going to come. No, they were bidding against themselves, and they bid too early. So the fact that Brunson has been so much more like everyone in New York has to say we were wrong about this. We thought he could help, not he could be a superstar.
Yes. So if they beat the Pacers, can you say he's a top 5 Knick?
I think you'd have to look pretty closely at it for sure, based on the fact that, he's been here 3 years. They've advanced in the playoffs deeper than they had for years. His individual numbers are, incredible. And it's a short list of guys who have actually won titles in New York. They only won 2 of them in the 70s. So you take away the guys who are on those teams, and there's no one else who can say we won here. So for sure, Brunson would have a case.
Yeah, I will also raise my hand because I'll go back to the trade that brought in Karl Anthony Towns. I said on the air, Brian, I hated the trade actually because the fact that you were going to give up Randall, but also what DiVincenzo was playing like last year, and I thought you were going to gut your depth at that point. Dead wrong about that. Which brings us to the series now. Overall, in the Knicks here at Circa, Brian, where we broadcast from, they're a $1.60 favorite to win the series. when they beat Boston on Friday night. Like, what was your early takeaway on how the series was going to play out?
Well, man, I was so impressed by Indiana in the last round that I had even gotten to the point and said, I think I would have picked the Pacers against Boston, even if Boston was healthy. This is a team who really, since the second half of the year, even longer, maybe since January, has been playing some, top 5 basketball in the NBA. And they looked so good. I understand Cleveland had some injuries and all this, but I'm curious to see how the Knicks, because look, as we said, the Knicks were terrible against Boston in regular season. They turned that around. So I do expect the Knicks to be able to counter a lot of the stuff the Pacers do, but I'm just not sure if you can match up with them for 7 games the way that offense is humming.
How big do you think the pace and tempo will be, and who will control pace and tempo?
Well, the Knicks are like every team. Every team says, we want to rebound and push the ball, but I don't think you want to push the ball against the Pacers. Everybody they bring off the bench is a good player. Like, their depth isn't just depth. It's really good depth. And, if they have to run against Toppin and McConnell, those guys are going to wear them out a little bit. So I think the Knicks want to try and slow it down. And, I think the key really is, the big men shooting outside Siakam and Turner, that's something, you have to, it's hard to adjust to that. You don't look for guys on the perimeter like that. And, the Knicks will have to find a way, much like teams have to do against Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to find those guys.
I think you're spot on with that. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Brian Mahoney, our guest, covers the Knicks and the NBA for the Associated Press, and he is on the Progressive Guest Line. More on that with the pace, because the Pacers were a top 7 tempo team in the league in the regular season. They're playing even faster in the playoffs. However, Brian, and this is like why I think the Knicks are going to probably win out with the pace, they were 26th overall in tempo in the regular season at about 97 plus per possessions per game. They're playing at about 95 possessions per game so far in the playoffs. So they've even gotten slower. Tough to do here against the Pacers, but I think the Knicks will do whatever they can to win the battle of the pace here.
Yeah, well, that's good stuff, Mitch. It's good to know. And, I think having Mitchell Robinson back now certainly helps them. We saw how good he was off the bench against Boston. They feel confident going to the boards offensively because he's going to get a lot of them. And they're going to get open threes on those offensive rebounds. And they feel like they can play at a different pace than they did in the regular season with him back there. So I do think that makes a difference. Again, can you slow this team down enough to beat them 4 times? Based on what I've seen so far in the playoffs, I think it's going to be really hard. I just really am impressed by the way the Pacers have played so far.
Do you think Bridges can be an X factor?
I think he needs to be for them. Certainly one of the reasons that they turned it around against Boston was because of how good Bridges was, certainly in the second half of those games. He didn't always have 48 minutes. That's part of the reason they fell behind a lot of times. But he played really well defensively. He stayed in the game even when his shot wasn't falling. And then late in the series, his shot did fall. So this is a guy who in Brooklyn was a good scorer.
That's
20, 25 points a game guy. So he has it in him, and they're going to need it, again, because they don't have another way to play. They can't go to their bench like the Pacers can. The starters have to be good.
Yeah, like every matchup might be a little bit different here, right? Because it was not a great series overall, I didn't think, for Karl-Anthony Towns against the Celtics. However, in the regular season, Brian, he averaged 30-plus points, 12 boards, 2.5 steals, and he shot basically lights out higher than 56%. And based on the matchup now taking on this Indiana team, do you think Cat puts up, maybe not, those are very difficult numbers to achieve, but really good numbers overall here?
Well, I think for sure the number one reason Knicks would have confidence is because of how well he played against them. Like you say, 30 points a game in the regular season. And Boston sort of forced the Knicks to use him differently because Boston guarded him with a smaller guy. And so Towns went down on the post a lot. Didn't shoot a lot of threes at all. But the Knicks need him to shoot the threes, and he did against the Pacers. And, if they get that aspect of their offense back, he was fantastic, and they're going to need that for sure.
Great to talk to you, my friend. I know you saw a lot of bad basketball over the years, so you deserve this too after 20 years with this organization.
It's nice to be watching basketball live in late May here. That's for sure.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Take care, guys.
Enjoy the game. He probably had a chance to go to like Rucker Park and watch better basketball for 20 years than going to the Mecca, right?
That was well said. No lottery luck.
Yeah.
You couldn't get a big-time free agent. The Melo trade, they were up against it before he even got there because of what they had to give up. You had the Linsanity run, which lasted a couple months. Then he got exposed in the playoffs against the Heat.
Right.
But just to see how much they love basketball and they haven't made the finals since 1999, and they haven't won a title since 73, and then they just end the 25-year drought. I mean, think of all these Knicks fans who've never seen this happen. 25 years is a long time.
It is.
And you couldn't even make it to the conference finals, and how many players you had. But I would think he's right as well, that if they're able to win this series, you have to take Brunson over Melo.
No, Paul. You take him right now over Melo.
Yeah,
right
okay.
now, absolutely.
He
yes.
won one playoff series.
Yes.
That's it. So while he was a great scorer, I mean, to think that, and a lot of people mocked it at the time, but it was a great signing, and they didn't overpay, and it changed the whole organization, what they're able to do just to get this guy and what he's meant.
Hey, one of the things going, I think, for Indiana that would be considered an intangible for the series, this is the kind of makeup here where this team will not be intimidated to go play at the Garden.
Oh, no way.
They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, right?
Yeah.
Halliburton's a guy who's going to step back and make a 28-footer as time expires, and he's going to run around the court going like this with the onions, look at me, I'm a big guy on campus. They have no problem going scoreboard against this team.
Yeah.
They're cocky, they're young. Carlisle's an awesome coach.
Yep.
So playing there at that place will not I don't think it's going to get them.
Yep. Good point about Carlisle. He is excellent.
Just to think, go back a month. If Thibodeau doesn't get by the Pistons, he's going to be fired.
There was talk. I know.
Okay.
There was talk about that. And certainly the Pistons won in the Garden twice in that series.
Do you concur? Is up next here on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We're down to the final four teams in the NBA. We get the West tomorrow night. We get the East on Wednesday night. That is definitely a series our next guest is very interested in. Well, he's a big NBA guy anyway, so he loves all the games. But VSiN's very own Zach Cohen joins the program now, and he is on the Progressive guest line. Zach, thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well. Let's begin with this, because you put this out on VSiN.com months ago when the Pacers were 44-1, around that number, just to win the conference, and you had some great analysis on it and why you thought it was worth a bet. Can you share at the time with us now why you thought it was worth betting back then?
Yeah, so it was on January 18th. I put it out 44-1. I just kind of thought that we saw a really good Pacers team in last year's playoffs. They didn't lose any of the players from that core. If anything, I thought that the experience was only going to be better for them. And I know that they started the year a little bit poorly. They were not playing with Aaron Nesmith at the time. He had a bad ankle at the beginning of the year, and it took him a little while to come back. But they started to play some really good defense in December. And if you go back to December 8th, to the end of the regular season, this team was 8th in the NBA in points allowed per 100 possessions. I think that a lot of us look at Indiana like an offensive-minded team because they can play fast. Halliburton's obviously an electric pick-and-roll ball handler, but they were playing really well defensively, and that's kind of when I bought into them as an Eastern Conference contender. I don't think that I knew, that they would be right there at the end of it. I thought maybe they were in that tier below Boston at the time, but I didn't think much separated them from the Cavs or the Knicks.
Oh, okay. That's where I was going, too, because that was you had the belief in Indiana, but you also had to fade two teams that won 60-plus games then.
Yeah, I definitely thought that Boston was going to be here at this point. I was a little surprised by what happened in that Knicks-Celtics series, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this play now. I did hedge a little bit with the Knicks. I think this is going to be a long series, but yeah, I'm still going to be in a situation where I'll win more if Indiana wins.
Okay, so then what are you going to do with this ticket? Paulie has him at 19-1. He likes the Pacers overall in the series. You've had, a good day and a half, 2 days to think about this thing right now. Which way do you lean here, Zach?
So I personally hedged with the Knicks at minus 145 just a little bit. I set up a situation where I'm still winning more if the Pacers win because honestly, I think it's a coin flip. And I think if you're betting this series, without having any futures on it, I'd rather have the plus money odds on Indiana. I think it's a genuine 50-50. I also really like the over 5.5 games at minus 170 because I just don't see this series ending in less than 6. These are really evenly matched teams, and it's going to be a very interesting matchup. I think that the strengths and weaknesses are different for both teams, but in the end, I just think it's going to be very close. The reason that I'm a little bit nervous, holding those Pacers tickets is I do think Brunson late game is going to be the most reliable closer, and that's just something that we've seen now throughout the postseason. 2 rounds of it, he's just been so good in the final 5 minutes of these games. And I know that Halliburton's been very clutch as well. Mm-hmm. Indiana has insane crunch time numbers. I just trust Brunson a little bit more towards the end of the games, and I do think that the wings on the Knicks have just kind of woken up after an entire season of underperforming. Anunoby and Bridges have been great, and I do think Anunoby is going to do a really good job on Siakam in that matchup.
How concerned are you with Cat? Cat gave him a ton of issues in the regular season matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that Cat settles for jumpers a little bit too often. I think that, he played really well in Game 6. He had a lot of juice against the Celtics, and he was attacking the rim, and he was playing kind of ferociously on the glass. But I do think that with Cat, over the course of a 7-game series, you're going to get 3 or 4 games where it's just going to be a head-scratching performance where he stands on the outside, he's rebounding very well. Yeah, I just don't trust him over the life of the series.
Have you looked at any Game 1 props at all, or any maybe Eastern Conference Finals MVP numbers yet? I threw out a couple of guys on the Knicks as they are the favorite here. Look, it's going to be tough if they win this series, probably for Brunson not to win it. But the numbers on Bridges and OG and Josh Hart are in the 40 to 65 to 1 range. I thought those were kind of attractive.
Those are interesting. I haven't looked much at that stuff yet. I need to actually dive into all of that because I feel like I'm missing out by not checking out series props. And in terms of that, I will be doing daily player props as we get into the series, but have not taken any pre-series ones.
Okay. Any thoughts overall on the Game 1 number or the total? How do you think the pace plays out in this first game with Indiana playing at warp speed, and the Knicks have actually been slower now in the postseason than they were in the regular season?
Yeah, I think I'd be looking under in Game 1. I think in the 2 home games that the Knicks play, they're really going to try to slow down Indiana. I think that the Pacers really want to open this up and allow their guys to make shots in space and just kind of, free flow and get to the basket a little bit. I don't think they're going to be able to do that if the Knicks could just walk the ball up the floor, take 20 seconds off the shot clock and then rely on Brunson to make some shots late in the shot clock. I think that's the best way for the Knicks to just kind of suck the life out of the Pacers. So I think at home, we're going to see some lower scoring games for New York.
All right. It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, VSiN's very own Zach Cohen. He does daily write-ups for several sports at the website vsin.com, and he is on the Pacers at 44 to 1 overall to win the East. Do you have a number that is worth writing home about on Minnesota in the West? As OKC, they've been the favorites to win that thing pretty much the entire year.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of futures on the Timberwolves too. I didn't put it out at 44 to 1, but I have 14 to 1 to win the West, 20 to 1 to win the West, and 75 to 1 to win the finals. So This is another one that I'm really this is another one that I'm very invested in. I will say, I love the Timberwolves plus 2.5 games at minus 160.
Yeah,
I just think that what we saw from Oklahoma City in that last series was extremely concerning. I was listening to Simmons and Russillo, and they said that the Thunder went through playoff puberty in Game 7, and maybe that's true. I just don't trust him. I don't trust Jalen Williams as a number 2.
Yes.
I think that the three-point shooting that we saw throughout the playoffs was really just shaky. And I know that, the regular season numbers were good, but honestly, the only guy on the Thunder that I really trust to knock down open shots is Aaron Wiggins, who comes off the bench. So I think that the Timberwolves, who defend the three-point line really well, can disrupt the Thunder by just kind of forcing them into bad three-point looks. And I do think Minnesota is going to have some success offensively in this series. I think Ant, that he's going to make or break the series. His turning over of the ball is concerning. This is a team that is 13th in the playoffs in turnover rate, and Oklahoma City is first in forcing those turnovers. So if Ant is, coughing the ball up left and right and just not taking care of it, that's where the Timberwolves are going to run into trouble. But if he's not, I think the Timberwolves are going to get really good looks from deep. This is a team that is deep with guys that can knock down threes. And I do think that Randall, I like this trade at the time, honestly. I think that Randall has a safety valve for Edwards, where You can't blitz Edwards anymore because you're putting the ball into the hands of another guy that could create in isolation. I love that recipe for them, especially with the supporting cast they have around them. So I think the Timberwolves are going to keep this pretty close. I think that maybe the Timberwolves take a lick early on in the series and kind of have to make the decision to not play Conley as much, just because I think that they're at their best with DiVincenzo out there. But I do think this is going to be a series that goes 6 or 7.
Yeah, and what do you make of that Game 1 number then as well? Oklahoma City, after that pounding yesterday in Game 7 against the Nuggets, now 7.5-point favorites in Game 1, and it's a quick turnaround for them as well.
Yeah, I love the points with the Timberwolves. I think even if I'm wrong about the series, I think Minnesota is going to cover or win Game 1. Like you said, it's a really quick turnaround from Sunday. I think that Finch is a really good coach for Minnesota, really underrated. Has now had just a few extra days to probably prepare for both of these teams, whereas the Thunder, it's one day to get a look at the Timberwolves and see what works. Minnesota also, they've won 2 games against Oklahoma City in the regular season. Both of those games they won without Randall. So that, I don't think the Thunder are going to have a good look at what, they're going to be doing with Randall on the floor. I just think, Minnesota is going to be a little bit more prepared in Game 1. And like I said, I think there's a chance they steal that Game 1.
Yeah, you can follow Zach on X, by the way. Betting on X is the handle. Great handle there. And again, the write-ups are superb every single day at vsin.com. Zach, thank you, and good luck with all those tickets that you have.
Thanks, guys.
There you go. And
a lot of good points.
Yeah, his breakdown, and I knew that I wanted to set him up with that with the T-Wolves futures. His write-up on the Wolves Thunder series at vsin.com is exceptional. Again, on the website, I tweeted it out earlier today at Mitch Moss Radio, and the nuggets that he threw out there, some of the numbers are just, they're great.
Plus 2.5, minus 160.
What do you think of that?
Yeah. In the previous 70 years, the same 7 franchises won 77% of the championships. For the first time in history, there'll be 7 different champions in 7 years.
It's amazing. It's a totally different sport than what it used to be.
How crazy would Knicks... It's got to be Knicks Wolves in the finals now. How good would that be? With the trade? Oh, that'd be nuts. DiVincenzo coming back to Villanova? Yeah, right.
Did you
Randall goes back, Cat goes back.
You see what Trae Young put on, I think it was Twitter yesterday? I think but there's a rivalry here with the Knicks fans.
Yes, right.
He basically said, okay, Oklahoma City fans are louder. So I think if we got Oklahoma City and the Knicks, that to me, that series would be either series. The Knicks involved, I got to be, it doesn't matter who's in.
Yeah.
Because I think with the way the Pacers play, it's awesome. But the Knicks, I get it, number 1 market.
Yeah. I've been saying he made a lot of good points. I just haven't been impressed with OKC. Not in the playoffs. Regular season, yeah. But I haven't seen, especially with how they played with their food in the Memphis series.
Our best bets are next. In-pocket plays coming up here on VSiN.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.